The final word. I'm cobbling this together whilst holed up in a Holiday Inn Express in Redditch. For those of you who I haven't already bored to tears, I'm playing in the National Walking Football Finals here tomorrow, in the over 65s. If I was at home I would have already poured myself a treble malt, but tonight I'm resisting the temptation to spend a few hours in the bar drowning my sorrows. I've limited myself to 3 pints. I've had one footballing disaster already this weekend and I certainly don't need another one tomorrow. When the fixtures came out in June, it's a safe bet that for many people the Wrexham dates were one of the first ones they looked for. I'm not sure if that was down to eager anticipation or nervous apprehension. When your nearest and bitterest rivals are on the up and the Shrews are flatlining, it's hard to tell. Town's recent results meant today's visit to the racecourse felt a bit like going to the dentist for root canal work. I was pretty certain it was going to hurt, just how much was the question. The police escort given to the Town supporters' coaches was a bit of a buzz. They could have skipped the coppers on the way out, a couple of hearses would have been more appropriate. Missing both Hoole and Pierre, Town started with Winchester at right back and Ojo in for Perry in midfield. No Perry or O'Reilly certainly set the tongues wagging. Tom Bloxham had also earned himself a recall. The atmosphere was tremendous with both sets of fans letting rip, their close proximity to each other adding to the theatre. The scene was set for Tinseltown versus Toy Town. It was probably no great surprise to anyone that Wrexham came out full of intent. They were out to make a statement and Town were going to need to respond. The home side moved the ball around smartly looking for gaps to exploit, and it wasn't long before they sussed out that our backline was full of them. With Mal and Winnie getting drawn in alongside Toto and Feeney, space was going begging out wide. Just to add to his problems, Mal was booked on 8 minutes for a late lunge. The first real danger sign was flagged up a minute later when I think it was Lee, I couldn't see clearly, cut in from their left and shot against the bar with Savin beaten all ends up. Home cheers turned to groans much to the delight of the Blue Amber Army. The respite didn't last long because on the quarter hour Wrexham took the lead courtesy of yet more catastrophic Salop defending. Teams don't need a moment of brilliance or a worldie to score against us. All they need to do is wait and we will eventually gift them a goal or 3, as was the case today. A long right to left ball found Winchester absent without leave and McLean with room and time to look up before simply rolling the ball across our 6-yard box. I have no idea where Toto or Feeney were, but Palmer wasn't fussed as he side-footed home with minimum fuss. That root canal was starting to twinge. Prior to the goal Shrewsbury had struggled to put any kind of move together, so it was hard to see what they would come back with. I was pleasantly surprised Tom Bloxham and Leo Castledine gradually began to make their presences felt. They did nothing dramatic, just a jink here and burst of pace there, but they were encouraging signs. Ojo was finding his feet in the middle, he lacked Perry's energy but looked comfy, as did Gilliad. Up front Lloyd was like a leper condemned to roam the wilderness. He works damned hard, but a lone striker he ain't. We did win a couple of corners and from one Leo brought a decent save from Okonkwo. Salop were gradually looking the better side, but possession is one thing, what you do with it is another. One of the things we rarely do is shoot, why I don't know, but I would prefer to see the occasional dig at goal rather than pointless ball retention. The game was definitely competitive, but Mr. Chilowich was handling things pretty well. His booking of McLean and Dobson in quick succession certainly endeared him to travelling Salopians. The period before their second goal was by far our best of the afternoon. We had them on the back foot for spells, but as per usual looked toothless in attack. Lloyd had a great chance after winning the ball from O'Connell. With Okonkwo chasing out, all he had to do was lob him and bring us level. What went through his mind I'll never know, but he seemed to momentarily stop, and by then his lob was more of an up and under, and the chance was gone. That second goal I hinted at duly arrived on 42 minutes, and it was our second present of the day. Mal Bennying lost the ball on his touchline, and they were gone. Barnett shot, and the ball eventually found Lee 20 yards out. His low shot beat the sprawling Savin for 2-0. If the writing wasn't quite on the wall, the lid was off the tin, and the brush was poised. In the dying minutes of the half, Leo had a chance to score from a Tom Bloxham cross, but he fluffed his header. At 2-1 down we would have been well and truly in the game, but you could sense the mood changing amongst the Town fans as the lads trudged off. What we needed was a positive start to the second half. What we got was more of the same. I fail to see why, when we are chasing the game, we persist with one man up front. It's almost like we had given up. Wrexham are a side full of wily old birds, and they knew they had done enough. They just needed to avoid any cock-ups. They needn't have worried. Cock-ups are what we do best, and on 59 minutes, we conjured up a beauty. Toto went to cut out a long pass, but got it so wrong. The ball looped up off his boot and beyond him. Marriott latched onto it. Savin raced out like a scalded cat, only to see Marriott steer the ball into the empty net. It was laughable defending by all concerned. Toto came off injured a few minutes later. I don't know if it was physical or his professional pride. He looks out of his depth in League One, and I suspect he knows it, and I'm sure it hurts. I'm not trying to rush this ramble to a speedy conclusion, but if Town came up with anything positive in the last 30 minutes, I can't recall it. Sure, the gaffer made changes: O'Reilly for Leo, Josh Feeney for Toto, and Sago Jr. for Tom Bloxham. Josh Feeney was the pick of the bunch, finally a central defender with some pace and positional sense. Please let him start against Charlton. Sago Jr. and Tommy never really got a look in. Charles was guilty of passing when he could have shot. Arsenal can get away with it. We haven't got that luxury, especially when you are 3 goals behind. The big question was, would Wrexham get a 4th or even a 5th? They certainly came close through Mullin and Fletcher, but thankfully that was not to be. By now the home end was bouncing, whilst Town fans were wishing themselves anywhere but where they were. That last half hour was as painful a watch as I've endured since Blackpool away last season. Where do we go from here? As far as the team goes, it's back to work on Monday to prepare for Charlton. As for the club, that is another matter. Forget the rivalry and how much it hurts to lose. Just take this afternoon as a game of football. Whilst we matched Wrexham at times, all our weaknesses were eventually exposed for all to see. Hopefully we can pull a rabbit out the hat when we entertain Charlton at home on Saturday. Until then, Floyd Salopia.